Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to sit down and try a bunch of new makeup. I have a lot of new products that have been launching. I feel like this year there's a lot more launching in January than I ever remember. It's like bam, 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 bam. I'm trying to keep up, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put them in this video. We're gonna try a bunch of them on and see what we think. As always, I will link everything down below in my description box. If you're new here, I hope you stick around and subscribe. And if you like trying new makeup videos, give this video a thumbs up. Lets me know that you want me to keep doing them, and let's go ahead and get into it. So let's go ahead and start off with lip balm. I picked this up from Sephora. This is from Topicals. I've not tried anything from this brand, I don't believe. And this is their Slick Salve Mint Lip Balm. My lips are so dry, and I actually saw a creator say that this was a stickier formula, and that's what I prefer. They do have, I think, a new shade that's like a kind of berry shade, but I wanted to just stick with the clear because I felt like the new shade looked a little bit too deep for me. This does remind me of the Ole Henriksen formula, but I would say even stickier. So if you like sticky, then I think you would like this. It has that kind of rich feel that stays on the lips. It's not going to slide around, and it does have a very subtle mint scent to it, so it's kind of refreshing as well. I do think that I still prefer the Ole Henriksen overall, but it's very, very comparable, and my lips have been so dry, you guys. It is so cold here. It's just now taking a turn, but here in Ohio, it's literally been like -5, -10. And I know there's probably people that live in other states like, that's not that cold. But for here, it's really, really cold. So it's just now breaking to where we're in like the 20s and 30s. And I'm telling you, I'm out there in a t-shirt. Like, this feels like summer because it's been so cold that now 20 degrees doesn't feel that cold to me. So now that we have our lips hydrated, I do want to use a bunch of these new brushes from Morphe. I'm gonna try to show you these, although I don't know if my camera will be able to focus on all of these. Holy moly, you guys. The amount of brushes in this package is kind of insane. So I do want to play around with these. These were sent to me by Morphe, and I'm really excited because they do remind me, just looking at them, of the Morphe and Ariel brushes, which were a huge success. So there's literally like, I don't even know, 50 brushes in here. It's kind of insane. And I know that you can buy them separately as well. I think most of them. So I'm just going to pick through and, you know, reach for whatever I think is going to work for that specific makeup application. But I did want to mention that I am going to be demoing those because I've had a few of you ask me my thoughts on them. And then to do eyes, I want to go in with this NARS Afterglow Tempting eyeshadow palette. So they sent this over in PR, and this has kind of like a purpley tone, but it has a couple, it looks like duochrome shift shades in here. Now, I admittedly do not wear a ton of eyeshadow, honestly, much at all anymore. I think because I am getting older, things are changing. I just don't feel the most beautiful with a bunch of eyeshadow on. So I really lean into like blush and lip gloss. But I'm just gonna do a light look today, play around with this, and just kind of demo it for those of you that have been asking me about it. So I think I am going to start out, I'm trying to decide. I think with this, no, we need to go for the purple. Well, do we? Okay, I think this is totally how I operate, which is kind of fun sometimes, but not fun sometimes, as I'm very impulsive and I literally plan nothing. So I kind of just go with whatever I'm feeling. I actually think I'm going to start with this shade, I want to say. So I'm just going to blend out my concealer. Sometimes when I use shimmers, I like to not use a powder to set down my lid because they just adhere better, and I have really dry eyelids that get flaky and crusty. It's a whole thing. You know, I just feel like I'm falling apart sometimes. I feel like a lot of us can relate, but holy moly. I have had some health issues recently that have made me not want to film, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. I'm going to see my primary care doctor in a couple days, and then I'm hopefully going to get a referral. I have struggled with torticollis before, which is basically like wry neck or twisted neck. A lot of times like babies or infants get it, but I had like acute case of it I think in 2022, where I woke up and literally could not sit up or turn my head at all. So I had to go to the emergency room. They gave me muscle relaxers and said, you know, you have torticollis. And I was like, what is that? I didn't even know what it was. Before I get into this story, I am going to jump into this warm matte shade. And I'm going to use a Morphe M333. It's just like a fluffy brush. Seems to be that I have issues when I'm sleeping. Like I can't get comfortable, no pillow is comfortable. And I've always had insomnia, like my brain just won't shut off. I don't know if that's like part of my ADHD. I thought that I had it under control after taking those muscle relaxers for a few days. I had a couple spasms like here and there since then, but about, I wanna say like 6 months ago, I started really having more issues with my neck, like prolonged, like weeks of not being able to sleep and nothing was comfortable. So I actually went to get my Botox, which is something that I do, you know, standard every 4 months or so. And I do get Botox in my masseters because I also have TMJ. Yay for me. And if I don't get it, I literally will chew my tongue when I'm sleeping. Like my tongue will literally have cuts on it when I wake up. So that's fun. I was asking her about my face being really asymmetrical. It was like this side of my face was pulling down. When we took before photos, she was like, your trap on this side is super tight and it's bigger, like it's working overtime. So I'm holding my tension and my stress in my shoulders and neck, which I always have done. She said there's something they do which is called trap tox, which is Botox in your trap muscle. Some people do it like for look because they want their neck to look longer or whatever, but she said some people do it for tension and muscle tightness. She was almost saying that like when your muscles get tight and they spasm or contract, instead of my head tilting down, it's like my face was like pulling down to kind of contract into that muscle. Like I needed to stretch this muscle. I needed to relax it. We tried Botox in my traps and it was really expensive, but I was so like desperate. By the way, this looks so pretty. After about 3 weeks, I started filming videos. I wasn't like hyperfixating on my face. I wasn't noticing like that my face was dragging down. And I just felt back to myself. And I took some before and after photos and I was like, wow. And I sent them to her, sent them to Cheryl, showed my husband, and they were like, yeah, I see what you were saying. So it was almost like when I'd sit down to film, I felt like my face on this side was like dragging down. My eyebrows were all out of whack. My mouth, it was making me feel bad about myself and almost like this panic of like, what's going on with my face? Like, do I have like Bell's palsy? You know, am I having like a stroke? Like I just started feeling panicked about it and nothing was helping. Well, the Botox did give me relief and I felt like my face settled back. I was sleeping better. My neck didn't hurt as bad. That happened for like, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks. And then I noticed a week ago that it's doing it again. Like my face is pulling down. I'm feeling tension. I'm feeling tight. So I went to a masseuse who does medical massages. And she actually massaged me almost like from here, like down. And she said she felt like stringiness only on this side, which is the side that pulls down. Now we're almost wondering if it's like a mixture of torticollis and my TMJ. Something is like tightening up so intensely on this side that it's literally pulling my face down. It's hard to describe. Like when you're on camera, I'm basically just staring at my face. You know, that's my job. I have had issues, you know, with just like not feeling confident and whatever, body dysmorphia and all that. And I've opened up about them in the past. But this was a different thing where it was like overnight, my face would just be like pulling down. I'm hoping I can get just some answers and guidance from my primary care doctor and then hopefully a referral to a specialist because, you know, specialists are the ones that would be able to get you like coverage for Botox if you needed it, like in your neck, if you get like headaches and things like that. So if any of you guys have dealt with torticollis, I would love to know. It definitely has been stressing me out. So we'll see what they say, but I'm gonna go in to the palette again into that first shimmer. I just wanna use a little bit more because I feel like we lost some of it, but it is more of like a kind of like topper sheer glittery formula, so I'm not looking for it to be fully opaque. And just for fun, I do want to try a little bit of this shade up here on the center because this one feels a little bit more, oh yeah, punchy. So I'm just kind of pressing that in the center and then blending outward. Yeah, this one definitely has more pigment overall and it's definitely brighter. Next, I'm going to go into the deep purple shade. I don't know if this is gonna work, but I'm gonna use an M301. Is this a purple shade? Maybe it's not. Is it? It kind of just tricked my eye. When I looked at it in person, I'm like, it's kind of maroon. It's like a maroon purple. And I wanna see if I can just add depth on the lash line. I think it's showing up. This color story is really beautiful. And to get more precision, I'm gonna use the M363, which is a little eyeliner brush on the outer corner here. Okay, now that we've got our eyeshadow on, I wanna go in and try this Beauty Pie Wrap Star Tubing Mascara. This is something they sent to me recently. I have loved the Beauty Pie cream blushes. They have a beautiful highlighter that I love and their lip oils. So I wanna give this a go. I went ahead and curled my lashes. The wand on this is interesting. I feel like I'm getting a lot of kind of root volume, but I'm not getting a ton of length. It's almost like bulking up my lash line, which is kind of nice, but I'm not getting the length that I like. So I'm gonna grab my Clio mascara. This is the Clio Kill Lash Super Proof Long Curling Mascara. This is my favorite. See if we can get, yeah, like, can you see just how I've got more length? It's kind of like a wet formula, whereas the Clio is more of a dry formula. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit more length on this side. Maybe you have to be like strategic in the way you use it. Like if you use kind of the tip of it and you pull through. Okay, that side looks way better. So this is what the lashes look like with the Beauty Pie mascara. I think it is something where you kind of have to like maneuver the wand and turn it to get what you're looking for, because on this side I feel like I have more length and I didn't use the Clio. So I'm gonna continue to use this, but I wanted to add some false lashes. I mentioned this in my previous video. These lashes are so beautiful. So these are the Fairy style and they are a lash cluster. They don't have adhesive on them. You can buy this kit with like the bond and seal that lasts for days, or you can just use like a regular adhesive, which is what I'm gonna do today. So I usually do like 14s, 12s, and then maybe like a 10. Today actually I'm gonna go for a 16 on the outer corner. I'm just going to play around and I'm just gonna use my velour lash glue. This is beaten up, okay? I don't wanna talk about it, it's kind of embarrassing. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw a few of these on and then we will move on to the complexion, and I wanna try the new ABH foundation. All right, so lashes are on. I still think I prefer the 14s on the outer corner, but I did try today 16, 14, and then 12. But I do tend to use 14 on the outer corner and then 12 the most. But I wanna go in and start on the complexion. So I wanna try out the new ABH foundation. So I'm just gonna go in with my Kiehl's moisturizer just to prep the skin. I am also going to take a little bit of my Glowish Blur Jam, and I just want to use this on one side of the face. I'm just curious to see if I notice a difference. I want to see if the foundation is blurring in itself or if it does perform better with a blurring primer. So let's talk about this new ABH foundation. So I did pick this up as well as the setting spray. I just got the mini to try. Now this is the new ABH Impeccable Blurring Second Skin Matte Foundation. So it is $46. I got the shade 2WP and it does seem like it might be a little peachy, but it does say that it's a medium to full coverage velvet matte foundation, non-comedogenic, that perfects skin with a blurring second skin finish for up to 12 hours. So I originally ordered this, I think like pre-order, and I paid overnight shipping or 2-day shipping. And then we had a like snowstorm all across the Midwest. So that wasn't going to come in time. I had just multiple delays and it ended up showing up literally like 6 days after I ordered it. So this is what the shade looks like. It's definitely peachy, but you know, we're gonna make it work. Now I have worn this once. I did like it, but it did feel a little bit, I guess, heavy to me, like you are wearing foundation. So I wanna see how this plays today. So I'm just gonna pump out a couple pumps. I also noticed that my pump is kind of like finicky. Like sometimes when I'm trying to pump it out, not much is coming out. You can see how thick it is on my hand, so it's not going to be running at all either. So I wanna go ahead and start applying. I'm gonna be using a Morphe M104. The Morphe brushes so far feel really soft. So I'm sure you can see just how much coverage that gave me just very quickly. The shade again is leaning a little bit like peachy orange. When they say like a velvety matte, it almost seems like you've already powdered it. So I don't know if you have dry skin, if you would get on with this. I mean, looking at my skin right now, it looks really nice and covered, and I can see the blur. I do feel like there is a lot of coverage, so I'm not having to use a ton of product. I'm gonna go in with the M133 from Morphe, just a smaller brush, because I like to use a smaller brush around my brows and my hairline. All right, so this is what the Anastasia Beverly Hills foundation looks like freshly applied. I definitely feel like the coverage is really high. I would say medium to full. You don't have to use a ton. I do think that it just looks heavy. It has that like sort of powdery feel, even though it doesn't look flat matte, because I feel like my skin still looks like it has a little bit of a healthy glow to it. It feels like I've already set it, and it has that powdery texture. I don't know if a lot of people are going to get on with that. If you have like really oily skin, you may like that. I do feel like my skin looks pretty blurred. I would say the side without the primer actually looks more blurred to me, but again, I'm just looking in my viewfinder. But I do think that it is blurring. I do think that it is high coverage. I definitely feel that like soft matte finish. So I wanna see how it does with other products. So I wanna go in next, and I wanna use the new Rare Beauty liquid contours. And they did send 3 shades over. So this right here is the shade Gentle, and this is definitely a contour type of tone. And then the next shade is called Solace. I think this one, yeah, it's like deeper and definitely warmer. And then we also have the shade Mellow, which I think is the lightest. Yeah, so you can see Mellow there. It does kind of jump quite a bit. Like this Mellow looks pretty warm, and then this first shade Gentle, maybe I'll start with that one, with the Gentle shade. It's pretty cool toned, but it is supposed to be a contour. I'm going to take this Morphe Cream and Liquid Contour, so the M243. This looks really nice. And I'm just gonna dip in to the product and start, I need to get my hair like way back here. Start applying. This is a true contour color, so it's not gonna give me warmth. And I always feel like I go down too far, so I'm just taking a little bit of my foundation brush. So hopefully you can see that that did sort of like give that hollow in my cheek. It's pretty cool toned. So I think I'm gonna start with that, and then I might kind of dive into the warmer shade. But first I just want to make sure that I apply this to both sides. Okay, so this is what the Gentle shade looks like on the skin. It does have a really cool tone, and it is more sheer than her blushes. So I do feel like when in doubt, maybe go up a shade in this formula just because they're not as pigmented. I'm gonna go into Mellow, which is the warmer shade. Just gonna put some more on my hand. And I'm gonna use a Morphe M242. And I wanna put a little bit of this just on top to bring some warmth in. I don't know how to feel about these colors because I feel like these two are more suited towards me, but they may be a little bit light just because the formula isn't crazy pigmented, but the middle shade is like a jump. I think these are the 3 lightest shades too. But I'm just gonna take this mellow shade around the forehead. I actually think it's a really nice shade for the forehead because I feel like sometimes the forehead can be a little harsh. And that actually looks a little bit more natural. So this is what the skin looks like with the new Rare Beauty liquid contours. I definitely feel like they are contours. So they're not gonna give you like a bronzer warmth. I don't know, I'm just curious to see how this plays with the other products that I apply next. But next, I wanna go in to these Natasha Denona blush duos. So these were sent to me in PR, which I was really excited because I almost purchased them. And these are her new high blush duos. So they have a blush formula and then they also have a highlighter. So the two that stand out to me initially are the two lightest shades. So this one is called Simply Shy, and then this one is called Sweet Cheeks. Sweet Cheeks just looks brighter and it has more of like a pinky blush. This one also looks pretty, which is Flirty Flush. This one's a little bit more intense. So let me go ahead and swatch a couple of these. This first one is Flirty Flush, and the cream blush feels really nice. It doesn't feel like overly emollient. The highlight is interesting. It almost feels silicone, like a cream with a silicone, which I don't know. I usually don't like a cream highlight, but this one has more of like that NARS kind of orgasm vibe. The blush looks really pretty though. Let's see, let me swatch these other two. Okay, so this next one is Sweet Cheeks. The dogs are going crazy because UPS was here. So this one has a much like icier highlight, but the blushes look pretty similar, so I would have liked to see more variation in them. And then this one is definitely more on the like peachy side blush wise. And this one is called Simply Shy. And again, this one has kind of like an icy highlight. I'm running out of places to swatch. And then this blush. Yeah, the blushes all look really similar, but I think I actually am gonna go in with this light shade. Winnie is going absolutely bananas right now. It's just fun times here. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into Simply Shy. I'm gonna use this Morphe M103 brush, and I'm just gonna go into the blush first. It has a really pretty tone to it, but I just feel like they all seem like they swatch really similarly. Although that is a really beautiful shade. The formula doesn't feel overly emollient, but I don't believe this is a cream to powder like some of her other blushes. And I feel like the pigment is not too crazy either, although it is the lightest shade. So this is what Simply Shy looks like. I wanna try to add a little bit of this Flirty Flush just in the back here. So I'm just gonna take a little bit. Okay, hold on. I might have to like work some of this off just to kind of punch it up a little bit. So that just adds a little bit more of like a pinky flush because the first shade is definitely more peachy. I think I actually prefer this first shade to the one I just applied. I'm gonna take a little bit more of that just because we're gonna be going over with powder. I just feel like this gives like a really nice kind of like peachy flush. And of course it's not perfect because we have to go in with concealer and then we'll use the highlighter after we set, but this is what it looks like. So I wanna go in next and I wanna try out a color corrector. So Kosas has these new under eye correctors. They sent these over to me, and the two shades I have are Magic and Illusion. So Magic I think is the one I want to try out because it has that like pink hue to it. So I'm gonna take a little bit, and when I say a little bit, I'm serious, like a tiny bit. And to blend that out, I'm gonna use a Morphe M132, and I just wanna see how this brightens up. So this shade in particular is definitely more of a cool tone pink than the other shades that I have. I have the Pixie under eye corrector, the Becca. I also just raved about the Essence one. The Essence one does not lean this pink. This one almost has like a really cool tone pink. Let me see. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I do feel like I have a nice brightness on this side. The other shade they sent is Illusion, which I feel like is just peachy, but maybe a little bit too deep for me. I do feel like the texture is nice. It's creamy. I mean, it is kind of emollient and thick, so I would say more hydrating. So that's where using a tiny bit really matters, because if you slather this on, it would be way too heavy. But I almost feel like the tone is pulling purple, like purple pink. I kind of prefer something that's a little bit more like peachy salmon colored, but then this one looks pretty deep for my skin tone. For concealer today, I'm gonna use my Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is in 6, I think, the shade 6. I really love this formula. No, it's actually in the shade 4, so I'm glad that I looked. I'm gonna take a little bit of this Kimchi Chic. I just like to use this to clean up my wings. And this is in medium beige. I think I actually went over my wings, so I might have to reinforce that. Sometimes I do things like that when I'm filming, because I'm trying to like stay in the viewfinder and I'm not close enough to the mirror to be really seeing like what I'm doing, and things like that happen. So I feel like that's too much concealer. So let me just kind of take some of this off here. All right, so I'm gonna start blending this out, and then I do like to kind of blend into the blush. So just taking a little bit more of that blush. And then you can also take your foundation brush just to go around the edges. So before I forget, while I'm blending this out, some of you guys wanted to see the kitties. So we bought a house in the country. I think it's been almost 2 years now. I feel like, you know, time flies and I'm like, what? We renovated the whole thing. It's just, we've done a lot. So we noticed, I want to say back in like September or October, there were kittens that would come to our porch. They were with their mom, and I felt so bad, like someone dumped them. So of course I started feeding them and kind of looking into my options, because I grew up with cats. Obviously I have dogs now. My dogs have never been around cats, although I don't think they would care. But these were like feral kittens. So they were not coming to you. They were only coming at night. I've just worked over, you know, the past few months to like really get them to warm up as much as possible. There's one that literally is like feral. Like you can't even see her through the window without her taking off. Reached out to a bunch of rescues, and of course they're all like overflowing and they don't have, you know, anybody that can take them or help. Before I get into the cat story, I did want to say that the complexion is looking much better. Once I applied my concealer, really blended it into the blush, I think it looks much, much better. And I wanted to use this little sponge from Morphe. I've actually been using it and I really love it. It comes in a set. They also have this like really tiny little one too, but I love this so much that I actually already purchased a couple more. I just like the point on it, and it has this like foam feel on one side and then a really soft kind of velvety feel on the other side. So I'm gonna take my Melt She's Alive powder. I love this powder, and it is a little bit more hydrating than my Lunar Beauty one that I love. So I wanna go ahead and try to use this because my skin is dry. I was saying that they were giving me resources to look into TNR, which essentially is pretty much the only option with like feral cats and stray cats. Basically, you trap them, you neuter them, and then you release them back, because if you like remove cats from an area, more cats just come in. It's kind of like the only way to control the population. Obviously that like made me feel bad, but I'm like, what am I supposed to do? There's like all these cats. As we continued to feed, there's been more cats. Like I think in total, there's been 6. I reached out to someone. She actually said she would help me out. So she came out and we were going to try to trap the black kitten that had warmed up to me. And then there was a black adult that could be the dad of the kitten or just is unrelated that just was living under my porch. I mean, at this point, there's probably like 3 cats and like 3 possums living under my porch. And I'm like, I don't care. I love you all. Just don't fight with each other, and, you know, we can live harmoniously. She came over to help me trap them, and I actually was able to drop trap them because they're used to me enough to where I can be right beside them. So I dropped the trap on them, and oh my God, my heart is pounding. There you go. My heart is pounding. I know. I was gonna hesitate, and then I was like, don't hesitate. Holy crap, sorry. I'm like panicking. It's okay. Oh,
I'm shaking. We all do it. We all do it. I'm shaking.
My heart was pounding. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Took me literally like 10 minutes. It was kind of insane. So she took the kitties to a animal hospital that she works with. They got vetted, they got spayed and neutered, and then we released them back and they went right back under the porch. Oh, honey, I know. You're gonna go under the porch, I hope.
I hope.
Yeah.
That's what I hope. All right. Ready? You know where you are, right?
Yes.
You know where you are.
They were mad at me for like a day. And then they were right back in, you know, like, where's our food lady? So they have like heating pads. We have straw up for them. We have little cat houses and they're living their best life. So basically like 3 or 4 times a day, I say 3 or 4 times, it's more like 6 times a day. I go out there and I pet them. I've got toys for them. I feed them wet food. They're spoiled rotten. Okay. So people were asking me about it. So I'm going to put some footage in of the kitties because I've been talking about them. So far, we've only trapped 2 because you have to get appointments. They fill up fast because unfortunately a lot of people just put cats outside without them being fixed and it's a big problem. We still have like 3 other cats that need to be trapped. We are going to attempt again and it's really stressful. Like if you've never trapped, it's stressful because like they're feral cats, they're stray cats. Like they don't do what you want them to do. If they get spooked, they won't come back for days. I just want to get them fixed so that we don't have any more kittens that need fed or that just have a hard life. Like it sucks that they have to fend for themselves. And if these cats like got comfortable enough, like around my dogs, I would bring them in. The 2 that, you know, I'm caring for. It's just difficult because the cats are already like really afraid. I just don't see how the dogs in them would acclimate while they're also trying to acclimate to humans. It's just a lot. So it's something that we'll see how it goes in the winter, or no, not the winter, the summer, because, you know, when we're outside doing yard work and all that stuff, I wonder if they'd come around. Like as of right now, if you make any like harsh movements or cough or whatever, like they get spooked really easily. So I don't know if they will just get used to it. You know, I'm doing all I can to help them now. So I just wanted to touch on that because you guys were like, we want to see the cats because they are super cute. I don't know. I feel like I'm like Snow White. Like everywhere I go, it's like animals appear. They just know that I'm going to help them. To add a little bit more warmth, I'm going to go into my Vive Bronzer Duo. I'm going to use the warmer side and I'm going to try this M163. These brushes so far, I have no complaints. They feel really nice. They do remind me sort of the Ariel collab, but I feel like there's a lot of unique shapes in this launch, which is nice. So this one you could kind of like go this way or turn it. And I usually leave my lower lash line clean, but I do want to add a little bit, okay, of this NARS palette. If I can get it open, holy crap. That is not the easiest to get open. I think I'm going to go in, I don't know, maybe with a little bit of the deep shade, just a little bit. And I'm going to use this M302, and I mean just a tiny bit. I really don't like to put too much on my lower lash line, so I just feel like it ages me. You know, I feel like everything ages me, let's be real. And then I am going to take a little bit of this warm shade with a Morphe M383. I feel like I did a little bit too much on this side, so I'm just kind of softening that. And for my waterline, a lot of people ask me about this when I wear it. This is the Kylie Nude Eyeliner. It is so brightening. So I'm just gonna apply this to the lower lash line or waterline. It just brightens up like intensely. I love this. It's gonna last me literally forever. And so many people ask me about it. Like every time I'm wearing it, I get multiple comments. So I wanted to make sure to show that. I'm gonna take a little bit of my Clio mascara. And I like to just focus on the outer lashes. And now that we have everything set, I wanna go in with the Natasha Denona highlighter, and this is in Simply Shy. So I'm gonna use this Morphe M131 brush. I just don't love I don't know. I just feel like it's a little, maybe like chunky. Let me try this Morphe M282. I'm just gonna kind of rub the brush in, although like it doesn't feel like anything's coming off, and this brush does say that it's for liquid highlight. I guess this isn't liquid though, it's just like a cream. I mean, I definitely see it and I think it's pretty, but I'm not like in love with this formula. It almost feels like a Super Shock from ColourPop, but creamier, if that makes sense. I definitely prefer it with this brush. I mean, I am liking it more with that brush, but I just feel like it's, I don't know, it kind of is like chunky. Like it doesn't sit seamlessly, it kind of grabs into chunks. I mean, it's pretty, but I like the blush more, definitely, in the duos. So to line my lips, I'm gonna use my Nabla Nude Lip Liner. This is in Nude 3. And in the center, I wanna try to use Acting Natural. This is a really nude, like gray tone. And I wondered if this would work with the eyes. So I just wanna apply a little bit to the center of my lips. I actually think that's kind of pretty. Even though I am mixing warm and cool tones, I do kind of like that lip. But I want to go in with one of the new Makeup by Mario lip glosses. So these came out and they sent them to me. I actually did purchase one, but then they sent them to me, which I was really excited about. But I do want to try on the shade Bare. This is a like light nude shade. The thing is, when you come out with like 15 shades and they all look the same, it's kind of like, what is the point? So I wanna try one on for you. They have a really nice like coconut smell. Not sticky at all. They have like a nice slip to them. I do feel like they're, you know, pretty and shiny. I would say if you wanna try this formula, maybe try one. I'll swatch another one for you. I don't wanna be wasteful because I'm gonna donate these, but this one is dragon fruit. But when you swatch them, they are just so incredibly sheer. I mean, if you're looking at this next to the swatch, it's basically clear. So that was a little disappointing. I just haven't heard anybody really raving about them. I think nowadays, you know, there's lip glosses on the market at the drugstore that are literally like $5 and are incredible. And I think if you're gonna come out with a whole line of lip glosses, it would have been really cool to have different finishes, maybe some with shimmer, maybe some like jelly-like, some creamy. And I just think the price point is too high for them to just basically look like a shiny clear gloss. So while I think it's pretty, I just don't know if I would tell you to go spend your money on it. I have other formulas that I like better. All right, and the last thing we have to try before I get into my final thoughts is the new ABH Impeccable Setting Spray. So this is supposed to be a 24-hour matte setting spray that blurs, hydrates, matte setting spray that blurs, hydrates, and locks in makeup for a non-drying skin-like finish. Okay, so it says smooth blurred makeup that lasts 24 hours. I'm gonna shake it up. I just got the mini size to try, and I did try this again once, and I really just didn't know what I thought about it. It has a good mister, I would say kind of like a spa-like scent. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply. It is a really like light fine mister. So if you're familiar with like the Glow Recipe mister, it's kind of like that, where you kind of got to get close and really get it like on the skin. The mister is fine. I mean, I see little droplets coming through, but I feel like once it kind of sets down, you just press into them and then they are gone. I do feel like my skin looks a little bit more hydrated, almost like it melted the powders in a little bit, but it's not dewy by any means. So I would still say it's a matte finish, but also not looking dry. It kind of just like toned down that powdery finish a little bit. I don't know, we'll have to see how this wears. I mean, I think everything's looking really good as of right now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put my hair down and get myself together, and then we'll go through my first impression on every single product, and I'll tell you what I think is worth it and what I don't think is. All right, guys, so here's my finished makeup look, trying out a bunch of new products. I did remove the lip gloss just because I felt like it was kind of smearing my lip liner around. So let's go into my thoughts on everything. So the Topicals lip balm, again, I actually really like it. I do like a sticky gloss or balm. I just feel like it really does hydrate the lips. I just think that it has a really nice shine to it. It does hang on for quite a bit, and I do feel like it hydrates my lips, but if you don't like that tacky feel, it would not be for you. Now the Morphe brushes, I feel like I have to play with them more. I actually really liked a few of these shapes, so I don't think that it would be something where I would tell you to buy the whole kit, but there will be favorites as I continue to use them. Like I really liked this M103. This is a foundation brush, but I used it for cream blush. You could use it for bronzer, liquids, foundation, really anything. And then I really liked this one, which was the M163. I feel like this is really unique because you can kind of chisel in there with bronzer, but then sweep this way. So I'm interested to keep trying that. I also want to keep trying out this M243 for just like liquid bronzer or contour. It's a really unique shape. And then I did also really like the M132, but I have a bunch of brushes like this that are just perfect for concealer. So I really like the feel of these. I feel like they feel nice and weighted. They remind me again of the Ariel collaboration, but I would say even more weighted, but a similar vibe overall. So I'll continue to test them out and then I will update and kind of mention which ones are my favorites. Now, shockingly, I really like this NARS palette, but I just think this is really stunning. The tones, like this shade really blended out to a beautiful, just like warm neutral. And then this is a beautiful shade for the lash line or deepening up. I think that they could have maybe omitted one of the shimmers, maybe even two, and given more mattes. But overall, if you like a glitter topper type of shimmer, you will love this palette. There is one standard shimmer in here, but I don't typically reach for shimmers that are that deep. I just really think that the mattes in here are stunning. And then this shade really punches up any sort of glitter look that you do. So I really like this palette. I mean, I think the look I did was pretty effortless, and it's neutral, but has a little bit of that pizzazz to it. And it's not just like the standard brown neutral. I'm gonna have to continue to try out the Beauty Pie mascara. I did like it more when I used the tip and sort of fluffed it through my lashes. So I really need to play around with the best application. If I wiggled it like a normal mascara, I did feel like I got a lot of volume at the root, but I wasn't getting much length. So I wonder if I did kind of wiggle it at the root to get that volume and then kind of use the tip to really get my lashes to pop, if that would be better for me. So it is a wetter formula, but it's not messy all over the place. It doesn't feel like it's one of those goopy ones where there's a ton of buildup in the actual tube. So I'll continue to try this, but my first impression was just kind of so-so on that. And then in terms of the ABH foundation, I am just a little bit, I don't know, undecided on this. When I look at myself in the viewfinder and in the mirror, I feel like I look beat down, okay? Like I am going out dancing or something like that. I do feel like this does have that full coverage. So if you feel like a lot of the foundations on the market are just too sheer, too natural, too glowy, this would be one to look into. I don't know if I love how it has that like powdery feel and the powdery look. If it lasted for 12 hours like they claim, I would be like, okay, I'm sold, but I don't know. Now, while I say that, I do want to say that I do think it looks nice and blurred. I mean, I don't have a pore primer on this side and my skin looks pretty like doll-like. So it is blurring, high coverage, but I want to see how the wear is because that's really important to me. And I just think this is more of like a full glam night out type of product. And that's not something that I reach for most days. So I'll continue to use it and I'll kind of update you in the comments on how it wore, but I like it. I just don't know if it's going to be like holy grail status. I also want to continue to try out the different shades in the Rare Beauty liquid contours. I do have to say that I like that they're not as pigmented as the blush, just much more user friendly, because I do feel like the blush is really like one dot and you're good to go. If you did any more than that, it's just crazy. The shades are a little bit jumpy for me. The fact that there's like two really fair shades, that one is really cool and one leans a little bit more warm, but then I feel like you jump to this shade, which is Soulless, and it looks like it's going to be like for a medium tan skin tone. So I don't know if I should try that out, and maybe it would work for me just because it looks a little bit more intimidating when you look at it, but when you start blending it, it has some forgiveness to it. So I find that it's easier to work with, but looking at it, I would think that's way too dark for me, not knowing the formula does sheer out. So I feel like it did blend nicely. I really like the effect that it gave me on my forehead. A lot of times I feel like my forehead can look a little bit harsh, especially with like my blonde hair. So I do actually like having a softer color that's not so warm and not so pigmented around my forehead, but I'll continue to test these out. My initial first impression is that I like them, and I just want to figure out which shade is suited best for me. Moving on to my thoughts on the Natasha Denona High Blush. I really like the packaging, and I really like the formula of the cream blush. I feel like it's one of those that would probably go over powder just the same as going under. I was thinking that it might like lift when I set it because it does have just more of a dry feel. So I didn't know if powder was going to like lift and move it, but it didn't. So I didn't have any issues with the blush. The highlighter is not my favorite just because I simply prefer a powder highlight. If you do use the highlighters, I would use a fluffier brush and sweep it on like I did. It can just get a little bit gathered up in certain areas if you apply it too heavily. I do wish there was more like different shades in this line, because they really kind of all look very similar. So I would have liked to see different undertones. Like I feel like a lot of them just look like a coral pinky peach, and I would have loved to see like purple, terracotta, berry, nude. So that is my one complaint, and hopefully she does take that into account and expands. But I like this. I just think it's one of those things that you probably want to pick up one of them, and you probably would get a similar look to picking up multiple. So one would be good in this scenario. Kind of very similarly to the Makeup by Mario lip glosses. I might as well just talk about them. I just wish they had more pigment. I think the formula feels nice. It's not sticky. It smells good. It's shiny. I just need more pigment. I don't really feel like I would reach for it if it's not going to really change the look of my makeup, and having like 10 different shades, I feel like more pigment was definitely needed. So that's my thought on that. And then the Kosas, I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I'm looking at my under eyes and I feel like they look good, but I don't necessarily know if they look brighter than normal. I think that this leans a little too purple pink, where it kind of leans into like a bruise almost. I'm not sure how to feel about this. It's not something that I could use on its own, which is kind of a con for me because I would use other correctors by themselves sometimes just to brighten up. And then this shade looks a little bit too deep for my skin tone. So if you have a deeper complexion, I would love to know if these work for you. I think they're just a little bit too dark to brighten my under eye. So I don't know if they're best suited for me, and I believe these are the lightest shades they offer. If you have a deeper skin tone, these might actually work for you. So I'd love to hear your feedback down below. I do feel like the coverage is nice. They're creamy and hydrating. I don't find them to be thick. And looking at my skin, I just don't know if my under eyes look much brighter with this. So again, I'm gonna have to keep testing this out. There's a lot of products where I feel like I'm undecided. I feel like there's potential, but there might be some drawbacks. So I'm just trying to kind of like think about my thoughts. And then the ABH setting spray, I feel like this felt really nice, and I feel like it did sort of settle that like powdery look on the skin. The scent is light. It's not overpowering. It doesn't give me a headache. The mister is nice. I don't know. I feel like I want to see how this wears. That's kind of my big thing with these two. Is it going to be a setting spray that locks in like my Charlotte Tilbury or my Cali Ray, or is it going to be kind of like a MAC Fix Plus but a matte version that blurs? I feel like my look is pretty. Like I actually like the way my makeup turned out. I need to really figure out what application, what shade, and just how these products wear before I can give them like the full stamp of approval. So I would love to know your thoughts on this look and the stuff that I tried down below in the comments. Of course, I will link everything that I used today down below in my description box. And I do hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to get a bunch of products that you guys were excited about in one video because I know that there's just too much for me to do, you know, dedicated videos to everything launching. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if there's anything new coming out that you really want me to test out, leave it in the comments. I always love hearing that. It gives me ideas on what you guys are interested in. If you're new here, I hope you stick around and subscribe. And as always, thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.